Down, Petco Park, a new beginning, let's go. Started back rocking the brown. Ever since we've been knocking them down. Baby said she wanna go to the game. Taught her how to say Padre gang. Started back rocking the brown. Ever since we've been knocking them down. Mitchell and Ness with the old school name. All of the homies holler Padre gang. Yeah, that.
And good day, everybody. Welcome on in. This is episode 156 of the Talking Friars podcast. I'm your host, Ben Fadden. Thank you for hopping on here and joining, whether that's live or on replay on YouTube or listening on the podcast platforms, Apple Podcast or Spotify. I really appreciate it. I'm coming to you, talking to you about the Padres series win over the Pittsburgh Pirates. This episode, before we get into it, is brought to you by GAGLIONE Bros famous cheesesteaks and garlic fries. They are located inside Petco Park during the season at every home game. They're located in Mission Gorge and in Point Loma as well. Those are their two outside Petco Park locations. So GAGLIONEBros.com, you can visit that website to view their entire menu, their phone numbers, their addresses, great cheesesteaks and garlic fries for you. If you want to have them to celebrate a Padres series win that took place in Pittsburgh this weekend. Some of the games were really close. There was Saturday's game that was a heartbreaker where you could make the argument that they could have swept. But a series win is a series win at the end of the day. So I can't be too mad about it. But there are some facts where the bullpen's struggling a little bit. Multiple guys, not just one. And then there's some situations where, like the first 7 innings of the game today, first 6 or so innings today, where the Padres offense just couldn't really do anything against Mitch Keller and I think the first reliever that they threw out there. But again, a series win is a series win. They end up winning today's game. They won Friday. I know they lost Saturday. We'll get into all of those games. By the way, just want to let you guys know out front, I just put a breakdown out about Bob Melvin being ejected today from the game. There's some lip reading in there because I was able to see what the conversation was happening there. What was it about? Some of the words that were being said there. I couldn't get all of it just because the camera angles weren't great. But I did put together a little bit of a breakdown there on YouTube, on Twitter. YouTube is where you're going to get the full version. The shortened version to fit Twitter's like 140 seconds that they give me. The shortened version is there. But I did want to say that before we get started here. Before Friday's game, I want to start with this. On Friday, Ken Rosenthal reported that the Padres made an extension offer recently to Joe Musgrove, 8 years, $88 million, so 11 years per year. That's the average annual value of the deal that the Padres offered Joe Musgrove. And I reacted to it on the pregame show that day before the Pirates series kicked off. And I'm not surprised at all that Joe Musgrove rejected this deal. He definitely should have. I mean, $11 million a year when Kyle Freeland is getting $13 million a year. Kyle Freeland, and that's my main comp. I know some people don't want to compare him to that, but he's the most recent guy that got that big extension, and Kyle Freeland, the last 2 seasons, has had a 4+ ERA. I think it was actually a 4.30+ ERA. It's over 4.30. And Joe Musgrove, on the other hand, while I think he's 1 year older, he's pitching way better than him. His ERA is continuing to get better year over year for the last 3 seasons. He threw the first no-hitter in Padres history. The fans would attack, maybe on Twitter only, but they would attack ownership and the Padres as a whole if they weren't able to get this extension done. And so my takeaway from this is you can't be mad at Joe Musgrove for not taking this extension. I don't think anyone is. Like the way extensions go, negotiations usually is what I would imagine is the player shoots for the moon and ownership, the front office, gives them a low offer and they hope that they'll accept it. 0.1% of the time they accept it. So then they have to move close to one another and hopefully you find a middle point and you agree to the extension. That's how I think it would be. So the Padres, their lowest offer, $88 million, $11 million a year. And Joe Musgrove is probably shooting for the moon. He's probably asking for like $25 million a year. I think for me, I think I said like 7 years, 120 million. I think that's like, what is that? I think that would be 17 million a year. To be honest, I would be okay for him right now asking for $20 million a year. But you see what I'm getting at here. The $11 million and a $20 million, that's a big gap that the Padres have to make up in these extension negotiations. But I did want to hit on that. Look, Musgrove, he said earlier on Ben and Woods this month, I believe, was talking about how these contracts, these talks, they're going to be tabled a little bit. And I totally understand why. That's fine. You know, he wants to worry about pitching and helping this team win. And he said if the Padres end up coming to his agent and giving them a better offer, then he'll look at it. But right now, I totally agree with him tabling it because the Padres, that $11 million a year offer, that you can't take that serious if you're Joe Musgrove's camp and if you're Joe Musgrove himself, because you're worth more than that based on what you've done for this franchise already, based on your numbers improving, based on what Kyle Freeland got, and you're a better pitcher than him. So that's my thoughts on the Joe Musgrove thing. I think that they'll end up agreeing to a contract and he will be a Padre. I'm not going to set any timetable on it. I mean, the All-Star break would be great to hammer it out, but if Musgrove agrees to an extension this season, that means that his AAV will increase. And so that's going to affect the Padres' payroll for this season. And they're up against the luxury tax. So they probably don't want to agree to an extension. Now, I was doing some research, I think, last week, and there is a 5-day window, if I remember correctly. There's a 5-day window from the conclusion of the World Series till when the negotiating window opens for all teams to be able to negotiate with free agents. So I think there's a 5-day window after the World Series ends where the Padres exclusively can negotiate with Musgrove. And I believe if they come to an extension then, that money that he gets would not have gone to the Padres 2022 payroll. Now, a 5-day window, that's not ideal, but maybe they come to an agreement at some point during the season. Both sides promise to keep it quiet, and they end up coming to an agreement during that 5-day period. Let me make sure I'm right on that. 5-day period. Yeah, so I'm looking at this. MLB.com says teams have until 5 days after the World Series to extend a qualifying offer to their free agents. Okay, so they have 5 days to extend a qualifying offer. The players who receive the offer then have 10 days to decide whether or not to take it. If they reject it, they're immediately eligible to sign with another team. So if they have a 5-day period after the World Series to extend the qualifying offer, why wouldn't they be able to instead opt to not extend it and why can't they offer him the extension right then and there? That feels like an option that should be on the table. I'm not quite sure if it is. But just looking here, all I'm seeing is the qualifying offer. It's MLB.com says the players become free agents the day after the conclusion of the World Series. However, they cannot sign with a new team until 5 days after the conclusion of the World Series. Okay, so even then, that means that the Padres do have a 5-day window there. It says, so while teams are able to reach out to player representatives, the 5-day period serves as an exclusive window in which teams can retain their departing free agents. Quite often, this is a period with very little activity. So the Padres can use this 5-day window to negotiate with Musgrove, and I'm not the smartest person out there. I'm not a front office person working for the Padres, but I would think that that's when they ideally would want to try to get it done. And if they get it done after the World Series, that money can't count towards the luxury tax for 2022. So they'd be fine with that staying under the luxury tax, and then they get him in an extension. So I think that's something that you could definitely see happening. So if they don't get something done and Musgrove just wants to worry about this season, I'd be okay. And And I would think that they'd get something done in that 5-day window where that's all they're worried about. They're worried about him and Joe. Boom. I know that they have more free agents, Sean Manaea, all that. But if we're being honest, Joe Musgrove is at the very top of the list of Padres free agents that the Padres need to retain at the end of the season, right? We're just being honest here. He is easily the number one guy. Sean Manaea is not from Grossmont High School. He didn't grow up a Padre fan. He didn't throw the first no-hitter. And while Manaea is great, maybe there might be more interest in him on a shorter deal than what Musgrove wants, right? Padres are willing to give him 8 years because they offered him 8 years. They offered him 8 years, $88 million. So you would think that the Padres would continue offering him 8 years. It's just going to have to be at a larger number, more than $11 million a year. So that's the Joe Musgrove thoughts that I had going into this episode. I'll just go through the comments real quick before we get to what happened in this Padres-Pirates series. Just checking Twitter real quick as well. Don't see anything. Okay. Doe says, I want these garlic fries. Yeah, Gaglione Bros, they have great garlic fries. I can't wait to get back to San Diego to have some of those. The cheesesteaks, they're amazing. Chip Rocks getting the chat started. Robert Suarez has no right being in the game with any kind of pressure. The guy sucks. Well, yeah, I think you're emotionally reacting to this one game. He'd been pretty good leading up to that. Let's see. Our payroll is embarrassing only if the players don't live up to their obligations. Well, yeah, but that right now, Doe, that's actually been the problem. They haven't lived up to it. Kim didn't live up to it last year. Profar hasn't lived up to it except this month, right? And then a 2-month 2020, but that wasn't even the contract. He got the contract off of the 2020 season. So that's Drew Pomeranz hasn't stayed healthy. There's a lot of contracts that haven't lived up to the expectations. And so, yeah, that's why it looks bad. All right, let's get to this Padres-Pirates series. What happened? Friday, the Padres get the win 7-3, 4-run win. They improved to 14-7. That was their fourth straight win, fourth win on the road trip, start the road trip 4-0. Darvish started this game. It was Darvish. It was Musgrove in the series finale, and it was Manaea yesterday. So bottom of the first, Darvish's command was not great. Daniel Vogelbach singled on a liner off Darvish's glove. Castillo hit an RBI single to right field. That made it 2-0 Pirates. 2 of Darvish's first 9 fastballs were strikes. So his command was erratic. He just wasn't really on at the beginning of the game. He settled down a little bit, though. In the top of the third, Ha-Seong Kim hit a 2-run home run to left after Trace Thompson worked a walk. That made it 2-2. In the top of the fifth, bases loaded, 1 out. Jake Cronenworth singled. His single hit the second base umpire. That drove in a run, 3-2 Padres. Manny hit a sac fly to center, made it 4-2. That really opened it up. That actually ended up being the game-winning run because that's all they needed was 4 runs. In the bottom of the fifth, Daniel Vogelbach had an RBI single to right, made it 4-3 Padres, so a 1-run lead. Trace Thompson, his first start with the Padres, he delivers. He has a 2 RBI single to left field, which was huge. That gave him 2 more insurance runs, made it 6-3 Padres. In the seventh, Jake Cronenworth hit his second home run of the year into the Crone zone in right center. That made it 7-3 Padres. That was great to see him with that stroke. Suarez came in, had 2 scoreless innings in the 7th and the 8th, so he hasn't been bad all year. I forget who was saying that in the comments earlier a couple minutes ago about Suarez sucking. Yeah, he sucked today, but he hasn't sucked all year. Haas got walked intentionally at one point to load the bases in his last at-bat. He was my Padre pick that game, and so I was shortened 1 at-bat, but he went 0 for 3, I believe, in that game. After that game on Friday, the Padres led the National League in runs scored with 98. Padres win 7-3, like I mentioned. Darvish finished with the final line of 6 innings, allowing 3 earned runs on 1 walk, 5 strikeouts, 8 hits. He threw 98 pitches. So My takeaways from this game was Darvish's command was not great to start, but it got better. Bob Melvin is pushing starters now close to 100 pitches throughout this entire series. Manaea went over 100 pitches. Trace Thompson coming through. He's definitely, I don't see him being sent down, especially when they just spent a roster spot on him, a 40-man roster spot. So they had to transfer Austin Adams off the 40-man and put him on the 60-day IL. And so if they're using a roster spot on him, I wouldn't expect him to be sent down because rosters have to be moved from 28 to 26 guys starting tomorrow, May 2nd, I believe is when that happened. I put an article out on gaslantball.com with 5 Padres that I think the Padres are at least going to be talking about, debating who should be sent down. Who of those 5 guys, 2 of those 5 guys should be sent down. It's actually going to be 3 when you think about it because Mike Clevenger is going to have to be activated. And so they're going to have to replace some guy, probably a reliever, with Clevenger so Clevenger can start on Tuesday against the Cleveland Indians. And we'll get to a little preview of that series after I talk about this Padres-Pirates series. But Trace Thompson coming through, Jake Cronenworth coming through. Those are my main 2 takeaways from this game offensively. Padres improved to 14-7. I definitely loved what I saw out of the offense pretty late there. Again, Robert Suarez was solid with those 2 innings. So that was Saturday's game. Padres win 7-3. On Saturday morning, Kevin Acee said in his newsletter, I put this out on Twitter, that Blake Snell in his one of his bullpen sessions earlier this past week, that Snell broke bullpen catcher Peter Somerville's left hand while throwing a pitch. There was some film of him popping the glove in a bullpen session at Petco Park. I think that was during the Dodgers series. But if it was earlier this week, it might have been in Cincinnati when Snell was throwing. Snell did have that start in Fort Wayne, by the way, that I talked about on one of the pregame shows as well. So I guess, it's sad for Peter Somerville to have a broken left hand, but I guess the good news out of that is Blake Snell's pitching pretty well, right? His velocity's there, and he definitely has the pop on the glove. I guess that's what you can take away from that. Chip Rock says, that's nothing. I broke my hand like 5 times last year watching the Padres. What, slamming your hand against the table when they were choking in the second half of the season? I could definitely see that. He says Suarez has he has gas, but he has no control. Yes and no. He has gas. Yeah, you're right about that. I think his control's been okay this year. I know he wasn't good today, and we're all victims of recency bias, so that's maybe what you're talking about. Pre-game Saturday, Dennis Lin reported that the Padres are discussing Lamet with other teams. I also talked about that on the pre-game show. And my main takeaway with this for Lamet, in this Lamet news, was that Lamet probably is best not on this team. The Padres can get back some offense in a deal like this. That's what the Padres are targeting with discussions with other teams because they need better offense. Don't let this offense explosion fool you in this road trip. They're playing the Reds and the Pirates, okay? They scored 6 runs against the Dodgers last weekend, a good team, and then they score 4 times that amount of runs against the Reds. So we can't totally say, okay, this offense is good, based off a Red series where they didn't even have Hunter Green pitching. So anyone that thinks that, I think you're getting a little blindsided by the fact that you're just looking at the scoreboard, the box score. Look at what they've done in the past against good teams so far this year. And Jerks Profar, he's come back down to earth a little bit. So trading Lamet, to me, it might be a win-win. He gets a chance to go elsewhere, maybe have a bigger role. The Padres get back an offensive player, and it clears up room. Later this year, they're going to have Michelle Baez come back, Jose Castillo come back, Drew Pomeranz come back, Clevenger's coming back, Snell. Did I say Morhone already? Nick Martinez is going to move to the bullpen. So they're going to have Austin Adams, Pierce Johnson. They're going to have a ton of arms in that bullpen. So losing Lamet is not going to be a big deal because you're going to get a lot of arms back. To even be like a full, not just replacing Lamet, but they're going to have a full chamber of arms, some that are going to have to be in the minor leagues. So losing Lamet, I don't think is going to be a big deal. And even right now, even on the team right now, like where is he? Where is he? Let me know in the chat. Where is he in your tiers of who you trust in this bullpen? Like when you go through this bullpen, where is Lamet on your list of who you trust? How far down on the list? For me, it's like 6 or 7. You have Taylor Rogers, Luis Garcia, Steven Wilson. I know Steven Wilson's had a couple bumpy outings, but I still trust him more. You have Robert Suarez, Chris Matt, I trust more. Hill, I trust more. That's 6. Ray Kerr, I even trust more right now. I've seen him for 1 inning. He struck out Max Muncy. He didn't give up any runs. So that's 7 that I put in front of Dinelson Lamet. Pedro Avila, no. Stammen, I mean, he's kind of tied with Lamet right now. So that's 7 guys that you put in front of Lamet, I would, in my list. So would you rather keep Lamet and pay him over $4 million when he's not going to have a huge role on this team probably, especially when they get back all of those arms I just mentioned a little bit ago? I don't think it's worth it. I think it's better to get some offense back. So Turbo says DFA Lamet. Chip Rock says I trust Lamet more than I do Suarez. See, I disagree with that wholeheartedly. I think you're just overreacting to today's game. Look at what Lamet's done this season. He doesn't have a defined role on this team. Robert Suarez does. Melvin trusts Suarez more than he does Lamet. I'll just tell you that right now. Turbo says let Lamet play in AAA and look good for the trade. That's not the way it works. He's getting paid over $4 million. They're not sending him down. I don't even know if he has any options left. Does he have any options left? I can look that up right now. According to Fangraphs, Lamet, okay, he has 2 options left, but they're paying him over $4 million. They're not sending him down. They still, like Bob Melvin still thinks that he has something in there, but they're not going to send him down so he looks good for a trade. You literally send down a reliever and then you trade him, you're not going to get a whole lot of value there because the other team's like, you just sent him down to AAA. Why should we just trade for a guy and give you a bunch back when you just sent the guy down to AAA? You don't have a lot of faith in him, so why should we give you a lot back? So that doesn't make sense. Wait a bit is what Trip Rock said, so he can continue sucking more. Like, I'm just not totally with that. Maybe wait more so you can see if Clevenger stays healthy and Snell stays healthy, something like that, or if Gore stays pitching well and staying healthy. But in terms of waiting for him to pitch well, I don't know if I have a whole lot of confidence in that because how many opportunities in these high leverage situations is he going to get? That's my big question mark there. So that's the Dinelson Lamet situation. Moving on to Saturday's game, the Padres lose this one in a heartbreaking fashion, 7-6 to the Pittsburgh Pirates. One run game that they lose. They fall, and now entering Sunday's game, they were 14-8. After Sunday's game, they're 15-8. But after Saturday, 14-8. Hosmer got to a 400 average at one point, hitting an opposite field home run to left. That was his 3rd home run of the year. That made it 3-1 Padres. In that 4th inning. In the 5th, Josh Van Meter had an RBI double to right center, made it 3-2. Reynolds tied the game on a fielder's choice. Sean Manaea, he didn't have his best stuff, but some of his pitches or some of the runs that he gave up weren't like totally on him. The first run was unlucky. It hit off of him and went into the outfield. His 3rd run might not have scored had Kim not spun on that double play ball where Cronenworth fielded it, threw it to him, and Kim went to catch it, and he did like a 360 spin and then threw it to first. It wasn't in time. If he didn't spin, they might have been able to get him, and that would have got him out of the inning. They wouldn't have scored that run. So some of those runs that he gave up was a little bit luck for Manaea there, or unlucky, I should say. So he goes 108 pitches, 6 2/3 innings, gave up 3 runs, 5 hits, struck out 6, walked 3. To be honest, I was surprised that they let Manaea continue to go out there in that 7th inning and let him go get those first 2 outs. Matchups allowed him to get the first out, but then they continued to let him get the second out when I believe it was a left on right situation. So I was a little surprised by that. But then when you look back on it, I wasn't totally surprised because of the bullpen situation. That game yesterday, entering the game, it was kind of like, who was he going to go to? Taylor Rogers yesterday was not available after going 3 straight days. And then the only 2 guys you had was Wilson and Garcia. So at that point, they hadn't even gotten him through 7 innings yet. Or the Padres weren't through 7. Mania did not get through 7. So you have to cover at least 7 outs with Luis Garcia and Steven Wilson. And then you take into account that the game went into extra innings because Suarez wasn't available. He had 21 pitches on the 29th, the day before yesterday. So he was not available either. Stammen threw 8 pitches. They weren't going to pitch him in a high-leverage situation. Dinelson Lamet, they weren't going to pitch him in a high-leverage situation. So it was Garcia and Wilson. Those were the 2 guys that they had available. Those were the 2 guys that they were going to ride. And when you go to extra innings and you're relying on 2 guys now to get 10 outs, right, because you have the 8th and 9th innings, 10th inning, and that 1 out in the 7th, that's asking a lot. And that ended up in the 8th inning. Michael Chavis hits a 2-run home run off Wilson, tied it at 5. Wilson had that breaking ball that was left up. That was trouble, so the game was tied. And that, by the way, came after Manny Machado hit a big home run to right center field. So that was one of 2 leads that the Padres had late in the game, starting from the 8th inning on. They had a lead in the 8th inning on the Manny home run. They had a lead in the 10th inning on Trent Grisham's go-ahead single that brought in a run after, I believe, Abrams got the runner over to third on a bunt that almost hit him in the hands, by the way. So they had 2 leads. They choked both of them. In the bottom of the 10th, Brian Hayes scores on the Eric Hosmer error all the way from first. Luis Garcia, he was giving up some hard contact, but this ground ball to Eric Hosmer should have been made. I initially said on the game reaction, on my initial game, the instant game reaction that I do after every game, that the ball went between his legs and it gave me like Bill Buckner vibes. But when I didn't get to see it, the replay. I was literally reacting on that play. The only replays that Bally showed was of the play that the Pirates were challenging, which was Brian Hayes, if he was safe or not, because he was initially called out and then he was ruled safe. It was overturned, and then the Pirates win. So I didn't get to see the replay of Hosmer missing the grounder. I posted the replay on Twitter and Instagram after, and he actually tried to backhand the ball, which infuriates me even more. He tried backhanding it instead of getting in front of it, just getting down. If he would have gotten on a knee or just blocked the ball, Brian Hayes would not have scored because he was on first base. But he tries backhanding it instead of getting in front of it, goes under his glove, and that's Eric Hosmer. You go flashbacks to a lot of plays that he's had over this Padres tenure in this first 4 years that he was there, and then now his 5th year, where he's blown plays. You go all the way back to his first year in 2018 against the Astros. Bregman hits a pop-up, and Eric Hosmer lets the ball go behind his head, and it's 2 outs, so the Astros runners are running all the way around the bases, and the Astros end up winning on a pop-up that goes 5 feet past home plate in fair territory. So there's that one. There's plays where over the first 4 years and even into this year where he's continuing to have a ball come to him thrown on one hop, and instead of going towards the ball, he lunges backwards or goes backwards into the almost foul territory. He goes into the base paths where the runner's coming, and it takes a split second more for the ball to go into his glove, and it's just a dangerous play. So this defense from Hosmer has really irritated me over the time that he's been a Padre, and it's irritated a lot of Padre fans. I'm not the only one, I'm sure. And I don't want to make this a reign and just a hate on Hosmer because he had an amazing April. If I was a voter for the Player of the Month, he'd probably at least be in my top 3 for NL Player of the Month. Manny would be number 1 for me because in April, he was great defensively. He didn't have that bad error to end April, which everyone's on recency bias, so people are going to remember that for Player of the Month voting. He drove in more runs, hit 1 more home run, and his average was close to Hosmer, almost at 400, just like Hos ended April at. So both of those guys were really, really good in April. So I don't want to rain on the Hosmer April parade because he did really, really well. I want to give him his props for that. But now that the calendar turns to May, let's really focus on what Eric Hosmer's doing past May, because he's had a history. Last year, he hit over 300 in April, and then it went down to like 247, and then got even worse, I believe, in June. So that's just the history that I've seen from Eric Hosmer. That's all I'm saying. But it was really a crushing way to lose that game, because Sean Manaea really, really went out there and continued to grind. He threw 108 pitches, 6 2/3 innings. Like, he grinded through it, and he deserved to have fist bumps at the end of that game, and instead he was walking into the clubhouse after a loss. So that was definitely disappointing. These are some games I talked about on the pregame show earlier today before this series finale. These are some games where it's like, okay, you got to win these games, right? You're going to look back. The Dodgers, the Giants, they win these games. That's why the Giants won 107 games last year, because they won the games that they should have won. This was a game I thought that the Padres should have won. They had 3 leads. They had 2 from the start of the eighth inning. They had a lead. 10th inning, they had a lead. They lost both of them. The pitching wasn't great. The bullpen was not great. Specifically, Hosmer should have made that play. Okay, so there were different people to blame for this game. But there's this game. There's the Diamondbacks game where Stammen gave up that walk-off homer to Seth Beer on opening day. That's 2 big games here to start the season that might end up costing the Padres, whether that's the division, whether that's a playoff spot. You hope that they're in the playoffs, or whether that's home field advantage, a 3 seed in the playoffs where you don't get the home field advantage because you missed out on these 2 games. So for those people that said today or last night, hey, it's only 1 game, go get them tomorrow, go win tomorrow. Yep, they won today. Yep, you're right, they won today, but you can't do anything about tomorrow, so that's good that they won today, but you can't do anything, and you can't change the result of last night. You lost the game last night. You lost the game on opening day. Those are 2 games that you probably wish you might end up wanting back at the end of the season. It's as simple as that. So Padres lose on Saturday 7-6. They end April 14-8. I'm happy with that, considering Tatis is out, Austin Adams, Mike Clevenger, Blake Snell, Pierce Johnson. You're having Mackenzie Gore make his first few starts in the big leagues, right? Nick Martinez has struggled a little bit. Yu Darvish had that really bad outing. Sean Manaea had that bad outing against the Dodgers. Jurickson Profar is your 3rd best hitter for most of the month. Eric Hosmer, who they were trying to trade and almost got a trade done during spring training, is your arguably best hitter, 2nd best hitter of the month. Considering those circumstances, they end 14-8. I'm all for that. I'm happy with that month, and I think you should be. I did just complain about 2 games there that they should have had, but 14-8 I will take considering the circumstances. And they're still right in it in the division. They end up winning on Sunday, 5-2. They improved to 15-8 on Sunday. The game was delayed an hour and 20 minutes in the top of the 3rd after Austin Nola did not tag up on Jake Cronenworth's fly out to right field. He ends up scoring on Manny Machado's single up the middle to the outfield. I thought that Nola definitely should have tagged up on this play. I mean, it was a fly ball almost to the warning track, and he did not fly out. He did not tag up. Cronenworth flew out, and you could see a camera showed Cronenworth going back to the dugout shaking his head because he knew that Nola should have tagged there. So I don't know what he was doing, but it ended up not mattering, I guess, because Manny drove him in, made it 1-0 Padres in the bottom of the 6th. The Pirates had a bloop single that would have gotten a runner to 3rd base, but Jurickson Profar threw him out. I tweeted on the Talking Friars Twitter, I don't know when other teams are going to learn. Don't run on Jurickson Profar when the ball's right in front of you. He's in left field. You're trying to get to 3rd. Don't run on him. It's happened a lot. He threw out Joey Votto at home earlier this year. He threw out Chris Taylor in that Dodger game when Nola ended up walking it off in the bottom of that 10th inning. He throws out a Pittsburgh runner here in the 6th. That was huge. So just don't run on Jurickson. Teams are going to learn, but they still haven't learned yet, according to the Pirates today. Joe Musgrove got his 7th strikeout to end the 6th. He was cruising. 71 pitches it took him to get through 6 innings. Mitch Keller was good as well. Musgrove wasn't getting any run support while Keller was on the mound. Through 6 innings, Keller allowed 1 earned run, 5 hits, didn't walk anyone. So his pitch count. That's why his pitch count wasn't going up. That's why he was allowed to go that long. Usually Pirates pitchers have not been going 3 times through the order or even facing the top of the order a third time. But the Pirates let him do that today because of how well he was doing. He struck out 5. In the 7th, there was second and third, 2 outs. I was worried the Padres weren't going to come through here. Grisham, though, he does come through, gave the Padres some insurance runs. This ended up actually being the game-winning play here because the Padres went 3-2. They went 5-2, but Pittsburgh only scores 2 runs, so the Padres only needed 3 runs in this game. Grisham, a 2-run single to right. Abrams and Nola score. A big double by Abrams, by the way, that set up this single to keep the rally alive with 2 outs, made it 3-0 Padres. In the bottom of the 7th, Roberto Perez had an RBI single off the right field wall. That ended up being the first run that the Pirates scored in this game, first of 2. Bob Melvin was ejected after this play. I believe he was arguing. He wasn't really arguing. Like, he was yapping at the home plate umpire, and the home plate umpire threw him out, and Bob Melvin came out. Don and Mudd on the broadcast did not know why he got thrown out, and to be honest, I don't know either. I kind of know. The umpire was sick of Bob Melvin yelling at him from the dugout, but Bob Melvin, I read his lips. I put a breakdown out on this. It's available right now on this YouTube channel in full. I hope you subscribe to this YouTube channel to get all daily Padres content all year long, including breakdowns, lip readings, all of that. I put a breakdown out, and Bob Melvin was mad at the home plate umpire because the home plate umpire did not allow Melvin to air him out, did not allow Melvin to argue with him. That was the first time, according to what Bob Melvin told the home plate umpire after he had been thrown out, it was the first time that Bob Melvin had been arguing with the home plate umpire all game long, and the umpire threw him out. So that seems a little weak from the home plate umpire, but that's what happened. And so, I encourage you to go watch that breakdown. It's available on the YouTube channel, on this YouTube channel, Talking Friars on YouTube for the podcast listeners, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. It's also on Instagram in full. The Twitter one that I put out, it's shortened because Twitter only allows me to put out like 140 seconds, and the breakdown's longer than that because it needed to be to explain it and to show what Bob Melvin and the umpire was saying in that whole ejection thing. Don and Mudd did not know what was going on, and I didn't either when I first saw it, but then I broke it down, went through the video, slowed it down, and so that breakdown's available. So I hope you enjoy that. But Bob Melvin did get ejected. It was the first time that he had got ejected as a Padres manager, and maybe that helped the Padres. I don't know. They end up scoring 2 more runs after that. Grisham had a single the second. Cronenworth had another single as well that scored Austin Nola, made it 6-2. Those were the final runs of the game. Did I say 5-2 earlier? I think I said that the Padres won 5-2 earlier in this game. It was 5-2. Okay, so my notes are wrong here. That Nola RBI made it 5-2. I don't know why I thought 6-2. My bad. Padres won 5-2 in this game. Musgrove, 7 innings, 1 earned run, 7 hits, walked none, 8 strikeouts, 92 pitches. Again, if you know me, I am huge on not walking guys, not giving up free passes, and that's exactly what Musgrove was able to do, not give up free passes. And I love that. Anyone that walks like less than 2 guys in an outing, please clap it up. Clap it up. Joe Musgrove deserves that. He pitched really, really well today, and I was glad that the offense ended up scoring some runs for him because those first 6 innings, it was not great. It looked really bad. Scoring only 1 run for him there, it just didn't look great. But they do win this series. They are now 15-8. Again, I'll buy that going into this off day and then a Cleveland 2-game series. I'm glad that they were able to get this series, this last game in, rather, because it was delayed, and the forecast I was looking at during the pregame show, it showed that it was going to rain, and there were some thunderstorms in the forecast like all day. So I wasn't sure that they were going to be able to get it in, but it was delayed an hour and 20 minutes. They got the whole game in without any stoppages, so that was good. And like I mentioned, 15-8 the Padres are right now. And they move on with an off day, a 2-game series against Cleveland. And so just some quick takeaways from this series. Manny having a home run, Jake Cronenworth having a home run, Ha-Seong Kim having a home run. Cronenworth also coming in a little bit offensively in other ways. Grisham coming through today. Abrams having a good day offensively. Look, my big takeaway here is the bullpen was shaky, but Taylor Rogers, the Padres are going to have to rely on him a lot. That's what I've taken away so far this series, this road trip, right? Lamet struggles in that last game in the Cincinnati series. That means Taylor Rogers has to come in that Cincinnati series, and then that makes him not available for yesterday's game because he ended up throwing on Friday, 3 days in a row that he threw, 3 games in a row. So he was not available to pitch Saturday. He pitches today, closes it down, no harm done. They're just going to rely a lot on Taylor Rogers until other guys come back, until Pierce Johnson comes back, until Baez and Castillo come up, until Pomerantz hopefully can be healthy and come up. That's just the way it's going to be because Robert Suarez, he's pitched well, but you're going to have some shaky outings every once in a while. This is his first year in the big leagues. Luis Garcia, he's going to have some shaky outings. Steven Wilson, it was a great start to this season, right? A great start to this season for him. It was like the first time since like April 13th that he gave up a run the other night. He's been nails, but he's a rookie, just called up. He wasn't even like a firm change. It wasn't like 100% that he was going to make the roster out of spring training, at least leading up to the roster decisions. So, look, he's a rookie. My point is he's going to make mistakes too. He's not going to be on all of the time. They don't have 6 Trevor Hoffmans in this bullpen. You can make the argument they have 2, and it's Wilson and Rogers from what we've seen, right? But Wilson is going to struggle at times. Everyone is. Rogers is going to struggle at times as well. He struggled, I think, once, right? If I remember correctly, I think it was a non-save. No. It was the 5-out save that he tried to get against the Dodgers, and Turner doubled off the left field wall. So there's one time pretty much where Rogers has struggled. But, yeah, Jessica, you're right. The Trevor Hoffman effect. Rogers is money. He's been money. You're right. Any closer in San Diego is always money. Kind of weird, huh? Any closer, you're right, pretty much has been nails so far for the Padres for a long time. They just have a history of that. Now you hope that they can have a better back end of the bullpen consistently so Rogers doesn't have to go 3 games in a row, and there isn't so much pressure on him because right now there's a lot of pressure on Taylor Rogers. There just is. Based on the bullpen, based on Suarez, struggling today, based on Luis Garcia struggling yesterday, based on Lamet struggling in Cincinnati. There's just not a lot of guys that they can go to. Steven Wilson having a rough patch in this series. It's just the way it is. Not everyone's going to be on their game. And Taylor Rogers, there's going to be games where everyone else was good. He comes in for the save. He blows it. The Padres lose. I'm not saying that Rogers is going to be 100% the whole season. But I am confident in this guy that despite the pressure, he's going to show up. So I like that. I'm confident in that. So those are my main takeaways. Some of the rest of the offense is coming together. Profar, yeah, he's going to come back. He's coming back down to earth a little bit offensively, but he's still good defensively. And my main takeaway is the bullpen. Just Rogers, he has a lot of pressure on him right now. Mitch, you must be on drugs or something. Put Stammen in the closer role. That's funny. That's funny. Maybe go look at his game logs. He just has not been great this year. And there's a big list of guys that Melvin would put in the closer role before Stammen. The MVP of the series. Let me know. Who would you guys put as the MVP of this series for the San Diego Padres? There's a couple that I would go with or that I would think about. That was a joke. Okay, yeah, it better be Mitch. All right. My gut reaction here is to go Manny Machado, and he'll be my series MVP unless someone else pulls up some big numbers that I missed. In this series, my series MVP is Machado. I know they didn't win yesterday, but he had a big home run there, made a great play there. He didn't have the error that lost them the game yesterday. I'm just trying to go through the stats, what Manny did to kind of confirm my MVP pick. He went 1 for 4 with an RBI on Friday. And then he went 1 for 3 with 2 RBIs on Saturday, so he has 3 RBIs there. And then today, what do you do today? Just trying to jog my memory. 3 RBIs so far. He drove in another run today, 1 for 5. He's hitting 375 at the 1.031 OPS right now, the highest on the team. Leads the National League in WAR. He's my MVP. Manny overall, Ivory Fan Geeks agrees. Yeah. Profar, the reason I understand where you're coming from with the assist. You say the assist god Profar, but he has come a little bit down to earth offensively. Jessica says, Kim has been hot as of late. Love it. Could DH when Tatis comes back if Voit doesn't come back and focus on contact. Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't really be ideal to have Kim DHing when he's known as a defensive first shortstop. Might as well just have Kim at shortstop and Tatis DHing so you can keep Tatis healthy. I get your point because if Kim continues to be hot, but I think Kim can just play second base, to be honest. You put Kim at second base. You can put Haas DHing if you want that, if he's still hot. You put Cronenworth at first. I think that's the way that they could go there. Today, Doe says Grisham today, but I'm talking about an MVP for the entire series. Today, he did also have a ball to the warning track where he could have caught it, and maybe he thought the wall was right there. And then he went to go try. It's like he stopped trying to catch it. He gave up on the ball at the warning track. He definitely had room to catch it. I tweeted it out. It's on the Talking Friars Twitter, at Talking Friars, if you want to go look at it. He could have caught that ball and he gave up on it. So it's not like he was amazing this entire series either. But yeah, today he was really, really good. He came up with that clutch 2 RBI single. He came up with the RBI single yesterday. So he would probably be in my top 3 or 4, Doe, in series MVPs. But I'm going to go Manny. Mitch says he's not impressed with Voit so far. I'm not either. Totally with you there. He's on the IL, so he's going to have some time to heal up and maybe refine his approach a little bit. Jessica says, ooh, I like that. Good idea. Tatis at DH to keep him healthy. Look, I don't know. I think that's something that they should float around, and they're going to give him a couple days at DH when he comes back. That would be my gut instinct because Kim is really good defensively at shortstop. I don't think Tatis would want to DH every day, so I don't think – and you paid him $340 million. It wasn't $350, it was $340 million turbo. But I get your point, saying $350 million, no defense, he can't DH. He's going to DH a little bit. That's just the way it's going to be. They want to keep him healthy. But I was just floating out the idea of Tatis DHing, just taking emotions out of it and just looking at keeping guys healthy and having the best defense on the field. I'm just thinking of it like that way. That's not going to happen because Tatis will have a say. He's not going to want to DH. You'll piss him off if you have him DHing every day. That's just the way it is. He signed to play shortstop. So I know that's not going to happen, but I was just floating that idea out there as something that the Padres will probably use when he comes back at least a few times. They'd be dumb not to give him a few days off his feet and keep him healthy. So that's my MVP of the series is Manny, just getting back to that. And then the Padres. They have an off day tomorrow, so kind of looking what's next. They have an off day tomorrow, May 2nd. And then they have 2 games against the Cleveland Guardians to finish out this road trip. They are 5-1 so far on this road trip. 2 more games. On Tuesday at 3:10 p.m. Pacific time, it's Mike Clevenger making his Padres 2022 regular season debut against Zach Plesac, Dan Plesac's, I think, nephew, or son. I forget what it is, but Plesac against Clevenger in Cleveland. Padres will get to face Austin Hedges, Josh Naylor, Franmil Reyes, all former Padres. Bank it right now. Put a bet on it. Austin Hedges hitting a bomb. He is going to hit a bomb at one point in this 2-game series. That's just the way it is. Franmil's going to hit a bomb. Naylor's going to hit a bomb. Well, I'll put it like this. Naylor and Franmil hitting bombs. Hedges an extra base hit. It's going to happen. That's just the way it is. Hedges is going to throw out Abrams trying to steal. It's just my pessimistic type of viewpoint, but former Padres crushed the Padres when they played them. It happened to Tommy Pham this year. I put out a tweet earlier this year about former Agon, Alexi Amarista hitting like over 300 against us, Nick Hundley, Cameron Maben. It's just down the line of former Padres. So it's going to happen. Bank on it. 3:10 Pacific time on Tuesday. And then getaway day, a day game, morning baseball, 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1:10 p.m. Eastern time, Cleveland and San Diego. Mackenzie Gore facing former Padre Cal Quantrill. Quantrill has a 3.27 ERA so far this year. He's going to strike out 10 guys. That's just the way it is. Sorry, it's just the way it is. Former Padres beating up the Padres when they play them. You'd like them to win both games in this series, but being 5-1 so far, if they split, they'll be 6-2. Going into the series, I wanted them to be 6-2 at least. I would have been kind of okay with 5-3. So if they lose the next 2 games, it wouldn't be the end of the world, but it would suck. It would suck for the moment. 6-2 is what I think they need to do. Split this series. If you lose to Cal Quantrill because it's a former Padre beating you, okay. I want Mike Clevenger to stay healthy. That's what I want to have coming out of this series. Clev stay healthy, pitch pretty well, and I'll be happy. The offense continue to hit pretty well. Don't let Franmil, especially don't let Hedges hit a home run. We're never going to hear the end of that. That's going to suck. Don't let that happen, and I'll be pretty happy. So if they split this series, they'll have a 6-2 road trip. That's what I wanted. I'll be happy with that. All right, before we get out of here, again, this episode is sponsored by GAGLIONE Bros Famous Cheesesteaks and Garlic Fries inside Petro Park, Point Loma, Mission Gorge, GAGLIONEBros.com to view their entire menu. Going through these comments. What's up, Raven? How's it going? Hope you're doing well tonight. Just going through these last comments here. Raven says, need to cut Matt Beatty. He is a scrub. I don't think they're going to cut him. I think he has one option available. I talked about this on Gaslamp Ball in a piece. He is an option to be sent down if they want to go with an outfield of Jurickson Profar, Trace Thompson, Trent Grisham, and then Jose Azocar and have C.J. Abrams as a emergency option. They could do that way. They could do that. So I think you could see them setting him down. Cutting him, I don't think that's going to happen. Keep Trace Thompson on the roster. I do agree with that. They're not going to send him down after giving him a 40-man roster spot a matter of days ago. Raven says Haas is okay. His bat is making up for it. It was in April. I am seeing him swing at those high pitches again and hit some more grounders at more frequent basis. So that's not great to see. And when he makes an error at the end of the game that cost the team the game, it literally did. That's not great. You can't just say Haas is okay. His defense still is not great. People, casual fans, they still look at him as the Gold Glove guy that he was in Kansas City. That's not the guy who he is anymore. Everyone else needs to step up, not Haas. Haas needs to step up defensively. I'll say that. Jessica says Toddy, Crony, Machado, Hosmer, Profar, Voit, Hassan Kim, Myers, Alfaro, Grish. I think she's asking who needs to step up. I don't know what her question mark is there, if she's replying to Raven or Let me see here. Trace Thompson and Jose Azocar are awesome. Thompson had 9 homers in El Paso. Yep. And he had 2 RBIs on Friday in his first start with the Padres. Irie says, just imagine if Voit had a strong second half when Tatis comes back. Boy, that would be great. He'd be the DH every day. Well, almost every day. And that would definitely help. Jurickson Profar is not going to hit like this all year. Hosmer's going to come back down to earth a little bit. You want him to hit 300, but I don't think that's going to happen based on previous history. And I don't think he's going to hit opposite field home runs all year like he did in Pittsburgh on, what was that, Friday? Saturday? He's not going to do that all year. Raven says, nothing can help Voit. He is trash. He hasn't been good to start the year, but I still want to have some confidence in him because he did have success with the Yankees power-wise. So you hope that it's just a transition period and he will have more success, you know? You really do hope that that's the case. All right, this will do it. I previewed the Cleveland series a little bit, talked about the Padres Pirates, the Padres winning 2 out of 3. Stay tuned. Got a huge guest coming up, scheduled for Tuesday. It was supposed to go tomorrow. Scheduled for Tuesday, joining the show. It will go out on Tuesday. Stay tuned for that. A huge guest coming on the show on Tuesday. That's at least what it's scheduled for. So stay tuned for that on Tuesday. Daily Padres content on this YouTube channel. I hope you subscribe. Ben Fadden signing off. Thank you so much for watching live or on replay on YouTube, listening on Spotify or Apple Podcast or wherever you get your podcast. This has been episode 156 of the Talking Friars podcast and YouTube show. See ya, everyone.